What do you call a fly with no wings? A walk. What's going on, YouTube? It is Tuesday, so we have our Tuesday vendor refresh, but we also have some additional information that I just want to go over with you guys, because after I made the video yesterday, they actually gave a kind of public service announcement here, an apology kind of going forward when it comes to this phase 3 event. I'm going to give you the quick cliff notes here, that way we could go into our Tuesday vendor review, but the cliff notes is that in December 1st, everybody is getting 8,000 archival fortunes for a daily login reward, and we will also have a return to the actual ESO Writhing Wall event portion where we're in the fortress in the future, just because a lot of players have noted that they want to be able to do it again because they think that it's cool. That's the quick cliff notes. Obviously, people are welcome to provide feedback. I talked about kind of the pros and cons in yesterday's video, so please, if you're interested, check out that video. But now we're going to go back because we're inside the Infinite Archive, inside of Apocrypha, to go over our first of 3 weekly vendors. And we start with 5,000 archival fortunes for the Mad God's Dancing Shoes. By no means an essential mythic, and one that just normally comes from a world boss, and not one that you really need to ever go out and complete. And you can see the Mad God Dancing Shoes are if for you. It's kind of like if you made the Saint and Seducer mythic. Absolutely whimsical and goofy and not very good, so easy skip. Next up is a glass lead, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce the L word inside of this. Liminal? I have no idea, but it is one that just drops from a world boss inside of the Telvanni Peninsula, and you can see this is actually part of a trifold. I don't necessarily know how most people will value something like this, but I do think that this is overall a mythic that if you're interested in getting it, you're just going to farm the world bosses. None of these here are really anything super crazy. Most of them are just world bosses and delve bosses, so not something you need to go out and spend your currency on. Next up, we have ourselves a shoulder. Now, interestingly, shoulders, and you can see I'm modeling it here for you, are generally things that are not usually as valuable as their mass counterparts. The reason being, they're just not as big. They're not as prevalent. If you're going to spend gold to be dripped out, you want people to view it. That's why belts aren't very expensive. But if you find yourself interested in this one, this is actually a pretty pricey shoulder. You can see I'm being bombarded here with Warhammer and Magic the Gathering items. These curated ads are really getting to me. 1.8 million to 2 million gold is definitely a pretty penny, and potentially something that you may want to consider. I will tell you, obviously, if you're new to this, these are character bound on pickup, meaning that you could use them, but you can't sell them. You're not going to be able to sell this. You're going to basically be using it simply for yourself. You're not going to be able to make any money. So the profit is actually how much money you're saving versus generating. Then next up, we have ourselves some blueprints. We have this chandelier thingamahoosin. We have this solitude platter, and we have this Argonian seat of authority. I don't know whose seat of authority this is, but I don't feel a projection of authority from this seat. I'm just going to throw that out there. But interestingly, a lot of these, especially this Fire Song one and the Solitude one, they've been out for a long, long period of time, and they still have retained a pretty chunky value to themselves. So these are certainly fine if you did want to purchase them. We're going to talk about a fragment later that also has some good value to it in this video. So if you are interested, it's not offensive if you wanted to buy some of these, but usually you save your archival fortunes for more juicer magoosers, but these are certainly good value. Not great, not fantastic, but good value. What's not good value though are Betnik treasure maps and light armor. I mean, yes, you could try to make a healing companion with light armor, blah, 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 blah. I just generally don't think it's worth your premium currency to do so in this economy. I mean, we have so many events coming out. New Life is going to be coming out. We have the Daedric War Celebration event coming out. We have all these events kind of coming out due to the holiday season. I just don't think you really need to take the time to go out and purchase companion gear. That's a random, mind you. So there's not even a guarantee. You're spending 5,000 archival fortunes, which is the equivalent to potentially getting a mythic lead that drops from somewhere really annoying dungeons, trials, really crazy RNG places to get a companion piece of gear that is probably in the wrong trait. So this one literally drops from Delves and Galen. So if you buy that, I'm going to slap you. Then we have 2 books. None of these books look anything exceptional. You can get tons of books like these already through the furnishing vendors throughout the game, especially the Mages Guild ones, so don't buy those. Scripts, we have Evasion, Magic of Steel, Generate Ultimate, and Anchorite's Cruelty. I'm a huge fan of Generate Ultimate and Anchorite's Cruelty. These are very fantastic leads. These are very fantastic scripts. The problem is that they're not worth it in the sense that you're spending the amount of currency that it would take for you to say potentially hours of gameplay to get yourself a script which will normally drop from just playing the game. If you're desperate to make a build that specifically utilizes these, it is not offensive for you to go out and purchase them. But if you're not actively about to go out and use these things, the odds of you getting them passively by playing the game are exceptionally high. Then we have the archival enigmas. These are from our infinite face art, not anything super crazy. And then we have the unearthed Valenwood seedling. Now this, for 1,000 gold, is averaging right now 8.8k gold. That is probably one of the best currency returns that you can get for your archival fortunes to gold. Couple things obviously to consider. One is that everybody could do this for 7 days, so just keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of the old noggin. Everybody could do this. There's going to be tons of people who have 100,000 plus archival fortunes who are like, I could use me some gold. So keep that in mind. There's always supply and demand. Check to see how many other people are doing this, but it doesn't mean that this isn't a pretty good way to convert your currency, even if it does come down a little bit. That's generally a higher rate on return than we normally see in these vendors. Next up, we find ourselves inside the Scholarium, which is inside of Ivea. Over here, if you've never been here before, this is a free-to-play area, in case you do not know. And notably, if you talk to the vendor that's over here inside the Scholarium, he has a rotational assortment of scripts. We start with Empower, Trauma, Class Mastery, and Thieves' Swiftness. So these are purchasable with gold. I notoriously love gold. It's easy to get hundreds of thousands of gold. It's not easy to get hundreds of thousands of archival fortunes. Just that's why, for context, I recommend buying these ones and not spending them with archival fortunes. For example, it's like almost the same rate, a 1-to-1 ratio, where we literally just saw an item that would turn 1 archival fortune into about 8 to 9 gold. So keep all that in mind as we go through these and why my recommendations are a little bit different. I will tell you though, the majority of these are not super great. You're not going to be using these on a majority of your build. But all of that to say though, is that if you have a character that does not have these unlocked, I would highly encourage you to 100% all of the scripts on a character just for achievements. A lot of cool things locked behind there. I mean, you could literally talk to this guy next to him and he's an achievement furnisher. So feel free to take a little peeky poo over there. But Empower, Trauma, Class Mastery, again, Class Mastery is static. And Thieves' Swiftness, I think Thieves' Swiftness is probably the one that you're more than likely to use out of any of these. But Trauma, I have heard of some weird trauma-focused builds. Empower, certainly, not the worst thing in the world to get, even if it's one that you're probably not going to use. But again, I would 100% complete a character for these scripts, and then overall just focus on better scripts, that you're going to use on the majority of your characters. Like, for example, if Ultimate Generation was here, I would be encouraging you to put that on pretty much every PvP character that you plan to make in the future. But none of these jump out at me like, everybody, for any sort of a specific PvE build, you need these. None of these really fit that archetype. And finally, we are inside the Imperial City sewers inside the Imperial City. If you need help finding any of these bad boys, ESOhelper.com will help you find these bad mamma jammas and give you a little bit more information demographically about how they work. We start with the Heartland set. Now, I'm actually a big fan of the Heartland set, but I actually think it's really good as a 4-piece set. It's 5 pieces, certainly not offensive. A play area of effect abilities by 10% is certainly usable, but I think being able to stack the Potentates effect with this damage reduction effect with other damage reduction effect by players is just very helpful, especially for PvP. There's some really fun builds that you can do that. All of that to say, though, you're not going to find those builds really heavily orchestrated in the meta. This is not a rallying cry. This is not a wretched vitality. This is not even an essence, thief. This is really not one that you're going to see used. It's not even a clever alchemist. You really have to kind of feather down the meta before you find a lot of people using sets like these, but that doesn't mean that they're not good. So I would give this set an 8 out of 10. Obviously, don't buy this. It's not worth 100k TLDR. None of these are. None of them ever are. Next up is Netch's Oil. It gives you max stam, max health, max stam. While you have crowd control immunity, you are immune to snares and immobilizations. So I find a set like this with its effect almost really good. The problem is there's a couple problems. One, it's 2 through 4 is not very synergistic, and 2, there are just better items, I think, that do this and do an effect similar to this. Obviously not like 1 for 1. Actually, it's one of the leads that I could see coming up here is part of that, mythic. So I'm going to talk about here in that just a moment. But overall, you really don't, you need a 5-piece set to do more than this, in my opinion, when it comes to PvP. Like, we have people out there that are building crazy amounts of crit damage. Who cares if you're crowd control immune? If you're getting hit with the mono myth crit damage Khajiit wombo combo out there, who cares if you're immune to crowd control or snares and immobilizations while you have crowd control immunity? Probably not you when you're sitting in the battlefield dead. Next up is the Magicka imbued metal plates. Now, this thing is actually kind of interesting because where it comes from. So this normally just comes from basically a delve, and it is part of the Snow Treader's boots, which I was alluding to a moment ago. So it actually drops from a delve in Cyrodiil. So a lot of people might think to themselves, this might be something I might want to purchase because I really don't want to go do that. But realistically, this is a PvP mythic. While you're in combat, you're immune to immobilizations and snares that can be cleansed, but you can't sprint. I think this as a 1-piece is significantly better than a 5-piece. And you might think to yourself, there's a pretty significant drawback here. You can't sprint. Well, we live in the day and age of subclassing. I could streak everywhere if I wanted to. I don't even need to walk. I could just streak every couple feet. I don't even need to walk if I wanted to. I could just go where I want to go. We live in the day and age of jewelry that makes you go faster, other sets that make you go faster. You don't need to sprint. You just slap on some jewelry, slap on some subclassing, major, minor expedition, and you're hunky-dory. You could use a set like this in PvP a lot better. If this wasn't the meta of getting one-shot by Khajiits with Shadow and Monomyth, you probably would see a little bit more utilization for a set like this. Next is the Scribe Chitin Padding, which is also a mythic that sees some utilization for, actually, ironically, for PvP and PvE. It is the Crypt Can investments. Now, normally this just drops from a world boss, so nothing that really jumps out at me, but I actually really like this mythic. So basically, you no longer cast ultimates. Instead, casting an ultimate transfers your ultimate to other people, and then you gain minor heroism at all times. So it's divided how your ultimate is divided equally amongst all your group members. It's a really cool thing you can do, and you can also do it in solo groups. For example, if you wanted to do multiple Dawnbreakers in a row, you could do that. I think of things like Balorgs, being able to proc that more consistently, faster, more damage. There's just a lot of upside to a set like this, but it is one of those sets that if you're wearing it, you're not going to be having as much fun as the person who's getting to drop multiple ultimates. You'll also be having less fun than somebody that's doing Stonefall treasure maps for no good reason. I mean, there's some sets there that are okay, but to buy them with this amount of Telvar, We have the studs we talked about earlier that were necklaces, now as rings. Then we have Force, Savagery, Prophecy, Flame Damage, Anchorite's Potency. I am actually a pretty big fan of some of these. For example, I think Flame Damage, Anchorite's Potency, some solo builds might want to use Force, Savagery, and Prophecy. Probably not, but this is a premium currency. This is tons of gold worth of value here. And that's why for me, it will always boil down to you, in my opinion, saving that currency and utilizing it just in better usage of your resources. That being said, there's nothing wrong with buying Flame Damage. You know, there's a lot of scribing skills that use it. Anchorite's Potency is certainly popular. I just don't think that you need it when it comes to this overall meta that we're in, and really a meta that if you wanted these, you're just going to get them naturally by playing the game. And that's where I kind of generally tell people you're going to naturally find these scripts as you play the game. So because of that, unless you need to make a Flame Damage build tomorrow or an Anchorite's Potency build by tomorrow, just play the game, do the daily quest, farm your daily quest, do the event daily quest. We just had the Halloween event. You know, we have an upcoming event where everyone's farming, daily quests for the Daedric War. So focus on that instead, and you'll be a lot happier with your currency reserves. And then we have the Elemental Storm Violet Purple, which is amazing. It's very beautiful. And an Elemental Storm does get used decently enough, but 125k Telvar, that's probably at least $500,000 to $1 million gold in value just for a skill style. Some people might think that's worth it. Some people probably don't, myself included. I think even if I was using this skill all the time, I don't think it's worth that much. I probably would just rather get it for Undaunted keys. even though I generally like to keep my Undaunted keys. It's hard to justify 125k Telvar, and only because Telvar is not necessarily easy to get. For example, it can be a little bit finicky to farm massive amounts of Telvar at a time, especially outside of major ESO events. Oftentimes, you're going to find yourself, not really able to farm it consistently. You're going to be getting killed. You're going to have, your alliance might not be very well high up in the actual population there. So it can be very finicky to farm Telvar as a solo player or even a small group player. So for me, it's just not something that I would want to use my currency on, even though I do use Elemental Storm often enough. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings for a random subscriber, for a random liker / commenter, and for somebody who finds the hidden word for the month. There's one hidden word throughout the month. Somebody did comment recently that they never find it. I will tell you, the last one was in a title, and I'm pretty sure it's still in the title. Granted, it's obviously been found, but I do try to make them a little bit more obvious, so that way people at least see that they do get completed. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Have a happy Tuesday, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.